Phil in 2004 when David Friedman sent him my way to my shop in Kelowna. You remember that?
No.
But was that for the 72 van?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, so
The
you
van
bet.
he remembers.
And the van that'll be the Bean Scene van in the spring here.
Oh, cool.
So, yeah.
There's a story about that van.
Oh, yeah. So Phil had the 72 bus that needed work, and he couldn't afford it at the time. Phil said, "I'm sold on your skills and I'll be back." I didn't know in that moment that Phil would change my life forever. He would always say I never charged him enough. Phil truly was my biggest fan. Sorry, inside joke. The next 10 years with Phil was always an adventure. Countless trips to Vancouver, the Kootenays, and wherever else chasing VWs would take us. He would call daily to check in, and as anyone who talked on the phone with Phil would know, those calls would last forever. On the weekends, I would come down to Vernon, we'd make dinner, have a few drinks, and spend hours solving the world's problems. And this wrote here, insert the fried egg story. So I used to make, after a few drinks, I'd make fried egg sandwiches for Phil and I, and I'd put 4 eggs in the pan, and Phil would say, "It's always amazing how my 2 eggs are always the ones that are broken." So it was kind of a joke we had. So Phil would come to my mom and dad's for the holidays and would end up sleeping on the floor, playing with the dogs, refusing even a pillow from my mom. Phil was so generous, even giving me the master bedroom when I would stay over. When he cared for someone, he would do whatever he could to help you, quote, figure it out. Except for when you wanted him to change his music. On a more serious note, Phil's legacy wouldn't be complete without this place, the Bean Scene. This place was his life's work. He had a vision. He traveled the world to gather all his ideas to create an amazing community hub. There is a warmth, a charm, an ambiance that is so unique to the Bean. I never could have imagined that my friendship would have brought me to this moment. This journey has been bittersweet. It's been easy to feel overwhelmed. When I look around and realize how important this place is, how important carrying on his legacy is. I can hear him pushing me forward even when I feel defeated. Phil has forever changed my life. Just from my time here in the past while, I realize how many others' lives he has touched as well. Until we meet again.
Good evening. I'm Dirk Siglet, a friend of the Bean Scene. Phil had a rich and fascinating life. He was allegedly born on October 7th, 1957 in Vancouver. And I don't think that's so, really. I think he was miraculously born 37 years later on January the 11th, 1994, the date of incorporation of the Bean Scene. And he arrived fully formed, well-traveled, experienced businessman, opera lover. He was delivered swaddled in burlap coffee sacks and laid on the front doorstep of this building. The Vernon Heritage Building, known as the L&A, or Land and Agricultural Building. And as I mentioned, the delivery occurred the same day that the Bean Scene was incorporated. And apparently, people recalling 1997 say he was welcomed. In Vernon at that time, there was no roadside coffee shop, no drive-through, no diner, counter, cafe. His Bean Scene Coffee House soon became the soul of our downtown Vernon. It was operatic in scope, concept and in the execution, in the tradition and atmosphere. It was modeled in the tradition and atmosphere of European coffee houses. Business was conducted at some tables, political gossip at other tables. Books were reviewed, magazines and daily papers were read, and lawyers left documents for exchanges between law offices. Melina Moore sang arias, John Lent presented poetry, Wendy Penner painted Trompe d'Oeil on the back patio, and CBC did a number of on-morning location radio shows. Molly Siglet, one of my daughters, was fortunate to be hired for a summer and trained by Phil. After that, she easily found work in the big city high-volume coffee houses, and this allowed her to pay for a good portion of her university expenses. Molly recalled the Bean Scene morning coffee rush with Phil and 3 baristas, all behind one serving counter, as the equivalent of a ballet at fast tempo. Preparing and serving coffee with good humor and in a heritage building is much harder than in a franchise purpose-built coffee house. To contribute to that European coffee house flavor, that civil, thoughtful, and informed discourse, and that I think it will do so well for the soul of our city. So I just want you all to remember and accept this evening as a good memory of Phil, and see if you can cope these principles that he left us, follow those principles in the future. Thank you.
So one of Phil's close friends, John Lent, wrote this, and this was in his house, I guess. So it says January 10th, 2016, for Phil Lambert. Sometimes in the sifting sideways thick of the most trivial of intersections, the most banal and overstuffed moments when nothing seems to be happening, and instead you sense you're waiting for something like life and movement to be born or arrive. Sometimes in the dull, intrinsic, is that how you say that? Flatness of such moments, I sense in the underside of their nothingness everything. I sense that I can almost hear the beat of that everything. In its design, in this sensation is so exhilarating, so palpable. I can't, oh my God, I'm a dropout. But I start to snap my fingers to it, then clap my hands together at some delayed after rhythm, some backbeat of love and universe and you, whoever you are, and wake up and I'm Rory Block suddenly, playing her version of Walking Blues and Death Letter to the 10,000 people standing on the burial ground of that old flatness, the song, and the people lowering such flatness into a dark carbon rinse of time, by John Lent. Actually, Nissa found this watercolor in Phil's basement. I don't know if anybody knows anything about this. I was hoping, I don't know if Barney's here yet. Is Barney here? No. So this is a Bean Scene coffee kiosk. So this was obviously professionally done. There's some mold on it here and it's deteriorated, you can see. Nissa found this in his basement when we were searching through there. So it's got all the Bean Scene logos and pretty neat, so it must have been another one of his visions, you know? That maybe he never got
My niece, seriously, on the way to our first date. And it must have been the adrenaline, but I told him that I was in love with him when I got there, and he said he loved me too, and which is the answer I was looking for. And he promptly asked me to marry him in the October, and actually our first date was in this coffee shop on that sofa over there, and we shared our first cup of tea, and we talked to Phil for over an hour, and this became our local spot, as young lovers have. And we would come in and sit with Phil, and he would tell us about the love he had for the elephants and the work that he did to help them. And he actually gifted us some of the elephant jewelry that he had made, and we were really inspired by his story and who he was as a person, and just how involved he was in everybody's life and this place. We fell in love with it too very quickly. And after Jeff asked me to marry him, sorry, I'm doing all the talking. When Jeff asked me to marry him, he designed a little scavenger hunt around the town, and with envelopes and clues that led me to our apartment where Jeff popped the question. I said yes, by the way. And this was one of the places, and on that very couch where we had our first date, he'd hidden an envelope that was one of the clues, and the staff and everybody was involved. And a few weeks after we came in for a cup of tea, and we were talking to Phil and said, you know, we just don't know where we're going to get married. Like, it's the middle of COVID, the world's going crazy, and we just want to get hitched. We were broke. Still true. No joking. We're a little better off. And Phil just said, we'll get married here. And we were like, really? He said, yeah. He said, you can have the upstairs absolutely free of charge. I'll get the staff to stay a bit later, and we'll set it up for you guys. And we couldn't believe it. Wow. So we got married actually right here. We even signed our wedding papers on that couch. So, yeah, we just wanted to let you know that story. And thank you, Phil, wherever you are, for being such a wonderful person and just loving the community and going above and beyond for everyone.
I don't know how to thank Phil for 27 years of fantastic coffee and a setting where you can meet so many people that became close friends. And it was, I owe him. He was such an influence in my life, as a lot of people have talked about that today here. He really was an influence, a positive influence. And the idea of 27 years of going and drinking coffee in the same place sort of boggles the mind, but that's what happened. And I just want to say what a great experience it was.
I don't know how many, well, almost every one of you probably knows me. Yeah. I worked here on and off for over a decade. I started drinking coffee in here before I started working here, and after I got the job, one of the first things that Phil said to me was that from the moment I saw you, I knew you were going to be working for me. I didn't know when, but you'd be working for me. I met my husband here. I met my best friend here. This community that he created, every walk of life, every person from every different aspect could come together. And it was peaceful, it was magnificent. He used to tell me on some of our extremely long conversations at night that we used to have, when I struggled with being able to have kids, he told me that he knew I would have two, and that he could see them on his property sitting in front of his creek with their backs to him, and I was going to have a little boy and a little girl. And I have a 3-year-old and a 1-year-old now at home that he told me I was going to have. And every time I lost hope, he told me that they were going to be there. That man was an incredible part of my life, and this place has been an incredible part of my life. And I hope it continues to be an incredible part of everyone's life because of Phil.
I'm not good at public speaking, and that's going to be a really hard one to follow. But all I wanted to say was that this place has meant so much to me. I've been here since 2002, on and off, forever. And so many of you mean so much to me, and I miss all of you. I'm glad that I can come back together with all of you now. I couldn't be here for a little while, but so many good memories and good times. This place is so special to me, and I just want to say I love you all, and we're all going to miss Phil, and you guys are the greatest, and I don't know what.
We love you too, Katie.
Oh, thank you.
I've been coming here since 2000. I was newly separated, divorced, and lonely. And
I spent a lot of time here by myself, and many of those days Phil would come and just talk, and we'd talk and talk, and or he'd talk, and that was great, and it just warmed my heart, and I got to know him really well. And then being a social worker, I think I really appreciated all of the effort that he put into the social causes, all the work for NOIFIS, for anti-bullying days, just the community causes that he was involved in. And he would, when he had a new idea, often Jean and I he would be sitting at the table and he'd come, "Can I talk to you about something that I'm thinking about?" And I'm going, "Okay, now what?" You know, and I mean, there were so many things that he was involved with, and I just appreciated his community spirit and his willingness to kind of get out there and do that. Never mind the brilliance of this place and the vision for this space, you know, downstairs, upstairs, in the back. There is no coffee shop that has, I took a picture of myself there not long ago, and my cousin in Maine said, "Are you in Italy?" And I said, "No, actually this is in our town." And she said, "Really?" I said, "Yeah, we have this amazing guy and he's built this." And so many of us have had the privilege to be here and enjoy it. And I just have to say that the community that I have experienced here as a single person, and then meeting Jean, and we started coffeeing here 20 years ago, and it's just, I love gathering places. I'm a very social person. I love meeting people, and this is a gathering place. And I can come here and there's always somebody that I know or I can talk to or hug, or it just warms my heart to come here. And COVID just about killed us because, you know, that's just, it's so important to have that in a community, a gathering place where you can just go and be yourself and have friends and meet new people. Somebody said, you know, I've met new people here, and it's so true. I've met so many amazing people here. And I just have to, I won't go on and on, I promise, because I talk too much. Oh, wow, so did Phil, so that's okay. I worked downtown, our office was downtown, and we used to go for coffee all the time, different places, and there was lots of little mediocre coffee places. And then when I discovered this place, I had to drag all my colleagues here because, you know, they didn't like strong coffee. And I said, "This is the best coffee you'll ever taste. It's amazing." And so when Matt came along, I said, you know, a couple of things, don't change too much, because we love the ambience of this place, but particularly don't change the coffee, you know, because we love the coffee. And so by the time I sort of convinced all of my colleagues to come and have a good cup of coffee here, I think everybody got used to the fact that the bean seed coffee was the best. To continue and to carry on and to be the kind of community that we have always enjoyed for so many years. So welcome to our Vernon, and welcome here, and it's been great to get to meet you, and we're going to look forward to many, many more years here together. So thanks.
So it's for connection, and it's a great way to start the day before I go to work. It puts a smile on my face. I feel really good having connected with people, and just sharing. And I just want to thank you very much. And I'm really happy that it's carrying on. We were all waiting and waiting to see, and it's really neat that you have that personal connection to Phil. It just kind of, I feel Phil when I say hi to you when I come in, and everything like that, and just that spirit that's still here. So thank you for taking that on, and for just being here for us, and thank you very much.
This is really hard. So I actually work for Being Around the World, and I've been there for 18 years, so I've known Phil for some time, and I had the pleasure of coming up here on several occasions and spending time with him and working with him. If he had any questions, and just trying to help him with the store. So over the years, really got to know him, and he was an amazing person, and he created, as was said before, a beautiful gathering place for everyone. And that's kind of, you know, from a business standpoint, what we do. Even though we're down in Vancouver, we want to embrace all our stores and all the people that sell our coffee, and want to create gathering places within each community for people to come and spend time together and socialize. And what he did here was the most, I think, incredible space, and it's amazing, Matt, that you're taking it on, and I'm thankful that, you know, that what you've done here is gorgeous. This was the first time I've come back since Phil's passing, and it's beautiful, and it's nice to see that his legacy is going to live on, because he had a vision, and not everyone achieves their goals in life, and even though it was cut short, I feel that he did achieve something huge, and his compassion and everything he did for his community with Neufus. His heart was huge for animals, as we all know, and he just touched many lives. So just wanted to be here to remember him with all of you. For those who I've met, you know, it's nice to see you again. And Phil, we LOVE love you. So anyhow, that's all I have to say.
I represent Being Around the World. My partner Pete started in 1990, roasting in a little shop in West Vancouver. And I had a restaurant, I started buying coffee off him. And his whole vision was a 60s coffee house. He had gone down to San Fran and opened up what he thought was a 60s coffee house in West Vancouver, and it was. And it was really cool. And about, I'm guessing the years, in about 1994, I met Phil with Pete. Phil was a customer, he lived in the community, he came in and decided to come up here and do this. And I thought, you know what, this is so cool. So for, I'm getting 25, how many years ago, 26, maybe more years, we've been roasting coffee for Phil. And of course we appreciate him as a customer in the business, but like you guys have all said, he was a visionary, he was a kind man, he had a feeling that he brought into this community, and yeah, it was really cool. So that's, we love you, Phil, and nice to meet you, man. Yeah, thank you. Bye, guys.
Facing, like, he used to bring this old beater of a Chevy truck, and he called it the Ghetto. Yeah. That was the name of his truck.
That wasn't even his. He borrowed that. He had Alberta plates on it for like years.
So the story is just kind of an interesting one. It's more to do about his love for old Volkswagens. He came to the shop. This would have been, I don't know, 15 or 20 years ago, just after he started the second bean scene in Kelowna. And he came into the shop, and he brought this old Volkswagen van that he had just bought for a few $100s, and it was a total wreck. It ran, but just barely. It ran so poorly. The tires were all wobbly, and the brakes were horrible, and electrically a bunch of stuff didn't work, and the body was rotten all around. And we started working on it. He gave us a list of things to do, and he came in to check up on how we were going, and I said, Phil, you've got some money, like, why don't you buy something better than this? Like, you're starting with a wreck. And he said, no, it doesn't matter. And I said, well, what do you mean? You're going to spend, he said, yeah, he said, I know, I'm going to spend like 30 grand. And I said, you want to spend 30 grand on this old Volkswagen van? And he said, well, I look at it this way. I need a van for my businesses. I need to be able to run back and forth to Kelowna, and I need a van. I could go buy a brand new Ford Aerostar and spend $30,000, or I can spend $30,000 and fix up and have a brand new 72 Volkswagen van. I went, okay. So we did a bunch, we got it running better for him, and then as Matt so aptly remembers, it got sent over to Matt's shop in Summerland. And I remember sitting in my office, which had windows facing the street, and it was a summer morning, and Phil drove up in this van. And I looked up to see this van coming in the driveway, and it took me a moment to recognize it, and my jaw just dropped because it looked like a brand new, right off the showroom floor, 72 Volkswagen. Just absolutely stunning, just beautiful, and better than a 72, as Matt knows because he did the work on it. Did some more.
There was never a place like this, and the coffee was definitely the best. But the thing I noticed that hasn't been mentioned, I don't think, is that many young people starting out in massage therapy training at OVCMT would come and sit hours here studying, cramming for the finals. And it was just beautiful to see these kids doing this. And there were other people studying, and you know, it was absolutely amazing. And now and again they would giggle and talk and relax and have a coffee, and you know, it's just you can get everything in one place. This is what's so special about it. And Phil was definitely kind, and he brought many families together in a lot of ways, a lot of very personal, touching ways. So I will never forget that, and I would love to be a part of carrying this on as long as I can.
Phil, when I came back from Europe in 1987, at the Kelowna bean scene. Not much mention of that tonight, but I remember coming back and being a little bit shell-shocked at Kelowna, but bean scene, I can nestle myself in there with my journal. This is pre-internet and cell phones. And it was good music, and then we had Phil. Always consistent, great coffee, community. I mean, back then it was the poetry nights were going on and music, and then fast forward, I'm Sophia's mom, Nicole, by the way. And those two boys, little two peas in a pod, I tell ya, would spend hours and hours and hours, 3 hours, 4 hours a night talking. And what did they talk about? Business. It was all business. No girls, sorry, but business. It was the coffee shop, cars, and I just have to say, Phil was like family. So when Phil loved you, he loved you fiercely with everything he had. Your children became his children. He was there and loved so many people, as you can see, and this is beautiful to see. So we love you, Phil, and all the best.
I didn't think I'd say anything, but I'm inspired to say something. I'm Kareen. And two really important things here being seen. One is, it's a rite of passage. There were so many kids through school who came to work here, and I feel like I donated my two girls to the same rite of passage. And they have so many stories, and that's just in common with, I know you're all nodding,
Yeah.
in common with a lot of parents whose kids just, well, yeah, just go to Phil and see about a job, you know, for a year or two, or go back and get a job. And that worked always, and it was just the hub of town for that. And the other one was, for me, when I've been gone and come back, this is the first place I come. This is where I get in touch with my community. This is where I get to see the faces. Oh yeah, I've seen them, they're still around. But what happened to, you know, the one who always sits in that chair there? And then you find out. And then you see people come and go and tell their stories. And so it's an extension of home, and I'm so glad it's here and still here. Thank you.
Phil, I'd go to the bean scene in Kelowna, walk in there, get my coffee, stand in line, wait for it. He would never let me leave the front part, right? All the new coffee shops, you have to put your order in, wait down there for it. You wait there for it. And as I'm doing that, the machine breaks. And like Mr. Friedman, I'm a mechanic as well, had a shop in town. And he says, "Hey, Chris, do you know anything about fixing these espresso machines?" I said, "Phil, I've got to go to work, man. I've got my, I'm on it." I said, "What's wrong with it?" "Well, the boiler or the pump or something, it just stopped making. Like your coffee was the last one." I'm looking at the lineup. Right? So I dove in, put my coffee down, grabbed my tools. And I fixed it, and he was so thankful, and I've been fixing his machine since then. And Phil has always been so grateful when I get here and everything. And he says, "Coffee's always on me, Chris, don't bother, no problem." And then he'd have a problem with his dishwasher. or his coffee brewer. And he said, yeah, it's like new, I've got the manual with it still. And he digs around in the safe, drawers, he pulls out a thing, and out of an envelope comes this yellow, kind of like faded instruction manual of the machine made in the 1800s. And he says, yeah, I don't think there's any warranty on it, but it's still, you know, I'm sure you can, here's the parts, look, and you do this, right? So I'd make parts for it. You can see the one downstairs, it's got little, you couldn't get anything for it anymore, so I have to make things for it. And rob a piece from here, just to get it going, right? And one thing with Phil, whenever he made a shot, whenever he made a couple of shots, if it wasn't quite right, perfect, with the bean around coffee and everything, bean around the world coffee, and everything, it would go in the jar. There's a jar, a glass jar beside the machine. And that was for the throwaway coffees that didn't make the touch, didn't make the mark. So every time he made a coffee for you guys, it had to be just right. And if it wasn't quite right, if the creme wasn't right, and the body and the heart and the whole thing wasn't quite right, he would toss it.
My name is Natalia, I know most of you. I started working here when I was, I want to say 18, since 17 or 18, yeah, 1998 or so. My first experience here, I mean, he opened in '94, and this was my first coffee shop, obviously, like a lot of you, I think. And I did a big art project with Dave Friedman's wife. Remember that? That big dragon, we made that big dinosaur thing, it was a big paper mache thing.
Oh, yeah,
Yeah.
right, yeah.
Yeah. And so that was very exciting for me, because, you know, I got to kind of get into the bean scene, and that made me feel cool. Anyway, I was really, like, I mean, I feel very awkward now, but if you'd known me back then, like, I was such an introverted kid. I was so shy. I was so awkward. I didn't know anybody. I was a homeschooler. I literally knew nobody in this town, and then I got this job, and to this day, the people I run into, like, I still know so many people, and most of them are from here, and people will see me and go, where do I know you from? And I'm like, well, did you go to the bean scene in the early 2000s, or like, you know, and it's always that. So I've been back here for the last few weeks. I came in for coffee and met Matt, and offered to help a little bit, because it felt like that might be valuable. And so it's been amazing being back, because again, that wasn't my plan. I have, you know, I have another life and several other lives and several other jobs. And, yeah, it's been really, really amazing being back here and just seeing everyone again. And yeah, I think I love what everyone's been saying, because this place, like, I mean, Phil was a special person, and the most special thing I think that we can all relate to about him is what he created here. And the community here is so special, and I've traveled the world as well, and I've been to so many places, and I love coffee so much, and I always go to coffee shops, and this place is really something special. Like, it's, you know, so I'm really glad we're all here tonight, and this felt like a, you know, a big deal for the community, and I'm, you know, glad to see you all. Thank you.